Welcome to the Musicology. Today we're going to introduce Eugenian Chant. To speak about Eugenian Chant is to speak about the history of musicology and music in the Catholic Church, which is to say, Western civilization. Now, it develops only about 50 years after Gregorian chant comes to be. Now, Pope Gregory, he was rather adamant about what he liked in the sound that he heard in the monasteries, and this is why he preferred the monophonic and rather monotonous aspect of what came to be known as Gregorian chant, or the chant of the liturgy of the Roman Rite. In Gregorian chant, you sing many syllables to one same note, or one same tone. This is why it is called monotone. In Eugenian chant, you do exactly the opposite. You sing many tones or notes for each syllable, hopefully on a single vowel. So you will sing what is called a melisma, which will go up, sometimes down, around the fundamental tone, which we also call cantoiano, which harkens back to Gregorian. So now that we have established the difference between Gregorian and Eugenian chants, we might as well discuss some more of the fundamental differences. So there are a couple of points that we're going to be discussing as we go along. One of them is that Eugenian chant is by nature polyphonic, and we're going to explain why and how that works, since apparently that bit has been lost in translation, shall we say. Another point is we're going to be discussing the neumes, which are the notation that was used in campo aperto, so it means this is before the staff lines and the way that we write music these days was invented, which is a development from what Gregorian chant contributed to music in the West. But before that, we devised these other squiggly lines, which no one seems to remember how to interpret these days. So hopefully we can shed some light on that and many other interesting aspects of how to make the performance within the liturgy and the meaning behind it all. So it should be an exciting series of videos and chapters that still need some tweaking, so we're going to be presenting those through Patreon and sharing those with our supporters every time we make a video, sort of discussing and exposing the things that will be treated on the final book once it gets edited and comes to be published. So we encourage you to follow us and ring the bell or whatever it is here on YouTube so that you can subscribe and stay alert on the upcoming developments. Now, the history of it all is rather interesting because, as it turns out, and bear with me, Saint Leander of Seville, who was Saint Isidore's brother, was on an embassy in Constantinople at the same time that Saint Gregory of Gregorian chant was also in Constantinople representing the Pope at the time. Now, these two developed a friendship while they were both ambassadors there in the imperial capital, and eventually returned to their own sees and became one Bishop of Rome, Saint Gregory, and the other one Archbishop of Seville, Saint Leander. But the beauty of it all is that Gregorian and Eugenian chants sort of have a genesis in Constantinople, and one can imagine that Saint Gregory and Saint Leander of Seville would have been having conversations about chant and their theories about it, and how the aesthetics of it were different for one man and the other. Now in Rome, once Pope, it is Gregory who develops the Gregorian chant, because this is what he defended and thought aesthetically pleasing, this monophonic, monotone sound for the liturgy. Whereas back in Spain, one can imagine that Saint Leander would be having discussions with his younger brother, Saint Isidore, who succeeded him as Archbishop of Seville and is famous for his etymologies and all of his writings. He is, after all, one of the doctors of the Church. And it is he, Saint Isidore, Leander's brother, who actually tells us that at that time no one knew how to write music. And we're speaking about Western music or liturgical music. Obviously in Greece there was another system, but this was not employed for the Western chant, not yet. So it is then through Saint Leander and Saint Isidore and their disciple and friend Saint Braulius of Saragossa or Saragossa that we get Saint Eugenius, because Saint Eugenius was actually the archdeacon of Saint Braulius. And then when Saint Eugenius is elected to the see in Toledo as the primate archbishop of the kingdom of the Goths, it is he who decides to eventually consolidate and canonize what the chant of the Goth-Hispanic Rite would be. So this is why it is called Eugenian Chant, just like Gregorian Chant is named after Gregory. And this happens within 50 years, so it's fairly contemporaneous, and again, one can expect that Gregory and Leander would have had some sort of a discussion about what their thoughts of the liturgy and the chants within it should be, and what the traditions from back home in each of their sees was. So again, rather interesting stuff, I think. And ultimately, one can expect and hope that these silent neumes that have been lost to time and memory can again fill the airs of some of the cathedrals and churches as intended by Saint Eugenius, and would have been witnessed by Saint Leander and Saint Isidore even before all of this was codified and laid down. So again, it is a bit of history and an important part of the patrimony of the Catholic Church, which we think deserves to be highlighted and taken into consideration. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please do remember to subscribe and ring the bell or do whatever it is that one does here on YouTube, and stay tuned for upcoming videos and chapters on this upcoming book. So, thank you very much. I am, of course, tome.